Good evening, everyone. Time is now 5:30. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, Mrs. Gould.
I'm here.
Mr. Thompson.
Present.
Mr. Cabrera.
I'm here. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the notice requirements has been satisfied as to the time, place, and date of holding said meeting by posting notice on the bulletin board in Borough Hall and by mailing and emailing same to the Herald, Cape May County, the Gazette Leader, and the Crest, Atlantic City on October 23rd, 2019. For the record, this meeting is closed to the public for obvious reasons, the COVID 2019 as per the state. I just want to remind the public, those of you who are watching at home, this meeting is being streamed on YouTube, also on Facebook, and there's a conference line available to call into the meeting. That number is 234-203-2766. You'll be asked to enter a participant code. That number is 786-394-836, followed by the pound sign. I'll repeat that number. Call 234-203-2766. Access code is 786-394-836, followed by the pound sign. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you at home, those who are here at the meeting, we are practicing social distancing. We're all about 6 feet apart, not more than that. Wanted to wish everybody well. Hope everybody is safe. Those of us who are here in the room, and those of you who are watching this live and or on the conference call. We're going to move right to the ordinances. Madam Clerk, may we have the first ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. The first ordinance is ordinance number 1322. It's for creating Chapter 74A, towing.
I move that ordinance number 1322 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1322 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Ordinance 1322 reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood, Crest, creating Chapter 74A, towing and storage of vehicles.
I move that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1322.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that ordinance number, the public hearing on ordinance number 1322 now be held.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes, and we're going to just give everybody a little extra time. Madam Clerk, I did receive a text message that somebody could not hear us. So
Could not hear what, sir?
could not hear. They said the microphone. I don't know if it's the camera or the actual phone.
It's not the camera because there's no audio.
Okay.
It's strictly.
Strictly on the audio. Okay, so we're going to have to do our best and try to speak up. We are now at the public comment section on ordinance number 1322. If there is anybody on the call, please give your name and your address for the record so we can hear you.
Hearing no one from the public, I move that the public hearing on ordinance number 1322 now be closed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the public hearing on ordinance number 1322 now be closed.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
I move ordinance 1322 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1322 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next, we have ordinance 1323. It's a capital ordinance for 5900 New Jersey Avenue.
I move that ordinance 1323 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1323 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Ordinance 1323 reads as follows. An ordinance providing for the acquisition of real property located at 5900 New Jersey Avenue in and by the Borough of Wildwood, Crest in the County of Cape May, New Jersey, and appropriating $400,000 therefore from the Capital Improvement Fund of the Borough.
I move that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1323.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1323 now be held.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes. Public comments. Anybody on the call have any public comments on ordinance number 1323?
Hearing nothing from the public, I move that the public hearing on 1323 now be closed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the public hearing on ordinance number 1323 now be closed.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 23 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1323 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to read the access code again and the dial-in number in case people are trying to get in?
Sure. Access code. Anybody that wants to call into the meeting, dial 234-203-2766. You're going to be asked for a participant code. That's 786-394-836, followed by the pound sign.
Okay. Ordinance number 1324 is next. It's acquisition of real property.
I move that ordinance 1324 be placed on second and final passage by title only.
Before I second that motion, can we adjourn 1 second? Give?
There was a question via YouTube from Mr. Travasio.
About
Why are we
59.
buying this lot? I assume it was about the 59.
Dennis Gervasio.
Hi,
There
Dennis.
it is.
Hi, Dennis.
We can go back to that now.
Okay, we're right now, that's the one ordinance that we're on right now, correct?
No, this one, yes, yeah, acquisition of real property.
What are they asking for?
Okay, so we're not at the title, we're getting ready, we gotta go through 1323 to start, and then we'll get to the public comment section. We haven't gotten to the public comment section yet, have we?
1324, that's where we are now, correct?
1324.
Yeah, 1324.
Right, the acquisition of real property.
Right, okay.
We did the capital, right. So we
Okay,
had a motion
I
already.
will move with my second.
Okay.
Mr. Cabrera?
This is been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1324 be placed on second and final reading and advertised by title only.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Ordinance 1324 reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood, Crest, authorizing the acquisition of real property by the Borough of Wildwood, Crest, known as 5900 New Jersey Avenue, and designated as lots 49 and 50 in Block 28 on the municipal tax map.
I move that a public hearing now be held on ordinance 1324.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number
Gervasio,
1324
112 East Louisville Avenue.
Hold on 1 second, Dennis.
is been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1324 now be held.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Okay, now it's open for public comment.
Dennis Gervasio, 112 East Louisville.
Go ahead, Dennis, you can ask your question now.
So, on this property, why are we buying it?
This is for the New Jersey Avenue project. Parking,
Why are we
additional
purchasing
parking,
this property?
it's for parking for the New Jersey Avenue project.
Hello?
Dennis, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
All right, Mr. Mayor just said that they're purchasing this property.
It's the New Jersey Avenue project, it's parking on the north end of the district.
Dennis, did you hear that?
Yeah, it's a parking lot. So, as of this point, how much money have we spent for parking for this area? And are we trying to buy more property?
The first property was the property at 6208, 6208, that's the first one. This would be the second one. To
The
answer,
second one, how much money have we spent on this parking? And are we trying to buy more property for parking?
so at the moment, I'm gonna, without having the numbers in front of me, I'm thinking it's 550,000. The answer to your question is yes, the borough is contemplating future purposes for the parking for the New Jersey Avenue Business District.
So we're going to try to buy more property.
The answer is yes. Those of you who are on the call, could I ask you to mute your phones? I hear children in the background. Could you please mute your phones?
Until you make a public commentary.
So, I don't know if there's a delay or what on this. One other thing I have you notified all the owners around the property with houses that you're planning to put a parking lot next door to them?
The answer is no. However, they did get notice of the New Jersey Avenue plans for the district, which also includes the parking, which is part of the stakeholder invites to the public meeting that was originally scheduled for this coming weekend, but it's been postponed until tentatively May 16th.
Okay, because if you remember the meeting that we had about the parking lot down at Myrtle and Ocean was not very well received by property owners.
I was at that meeting. Well, I was at that meeting. I don't recall that being the case, Dennis. But for purposes of this
Are we
ordinance,
building
though,
that parking lot?
for purposes of this ordinance, we're talking about ordinance number 1324. Do you have any more further questions?
He was speaking about
No.
Service Park.
Okay, I'm sorry. Now, on your other questions, you're welcome to bring that up under the public comments. Okay? Okay. Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Hearing nothing further from the public, I move that the public hearing on ordinance 1324 now be closed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the public hearing on ordinance number 1324 now be closed.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Move ordinance number 1324 be passed on second and final reading, advertised according to law.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1324 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Next we have ordinance number 1325, and it's the salary ordinance.
Motion that ordinance number 1325 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1325 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Ordinance number 1325 reads as follows. An ordinance to amend section 59-3 of the Code of the Borough of Wildwood, Crest, known as the salary ordinance, fixing and determining salaries and compensations of the Borough of Wildwood, Crest, and providing for the raising of the amounts thereof by taxation and for the time and method of payment.
I move that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1325.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1325 now be held.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes. Floor is open for public comments on ordinance number 1325.
Hearing no comments from the public, I move that the public hearing on ordinance 1325 now be closed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the public hearing on ordinance number 1325 now be closed.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
I move ordinance 1325 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1325 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Lastly, we have ordinance... Hello?
Hi, this is Homeowner Students Party. I wanted to know, are you going to open up for comments related to the salary ordinance that you just passed? Because I have some questions on that.
Go ahead. So, yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Oh,
We
I
actually
We need to
closed-
reopen.
I need your name again.
Susan Rozak, R-O-S-Z-A-K, the Party, C-U-T-T-A-R-D-I. Do
so
you have that you can send out to everyone?
So
Do you have something specific in mind?
There were 3 things that were changed, correct?
yes, there were only 3 items that were changed on the old salary ordinance to this salary ordinance, and that was due to a change in staffing through the fire official office. So it was really just changing 2 ranges for the fire official and fire prevention specialist.
Susan, did you hear that?
I heard that, okay. And then, where are the actual salaries that are posted? Because in some of those ranges that are there, it's a very wide range. So do you have documentation that you can hand out to everyone related to how many actual members are there? So for example, it says police officers, we know that there's 7, and the range there was like 40,000 to 110,000. So how do we know exactly how many you have and at what range they're being paid?
In the contract, the steps are broken down. For the police department, anybody who is a member of a collective bargaining unit, such as the PBA, that information is contained in their contract.
It's hard to hear who's ever speaking.
If you are specifically speaking of the police department, they are contractual members of the PBA, so their specific salary ranges, their step guide is located in their contract. You would be able to get that information by sending a request to the clerk's office for that information. We can certainly provide that to you. That would be a collective bargaining contract under the PBA for police officers.
That's fine. I guess my question wasn't really related to that specific example. I'm just asking in general. You listed the range, and the ranges are huge, right, on many of the roles that you have listed there. So I was just wondering if you have specifics that at some point can be distributed to people to understand, how many actual employees are we paying, and, where do they fall in that range? So I understand with the police, the contractual, is that the case for all of the actual roles that are there?
No, we do have 3 collective bargaining contracts. They're sanitation workers, EMS, and the police department. And then we also have superior officers. The other non-contractual employees, this municipality does not do a salary resolution, which would be specific to each individual employee that we have. So any questions that you might have about specific jobs and the salaries associated therewith would go as an open request, and we could get you that information directly from the payroll office.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So we allowed that comment, but we did already had closed it, but we
We did.
did have it right.
Yes, I
Okay.
have it on the record.
Okay, so we're moving on to ordinance number 1326.
That is correct, and it is for Chapter 79 vehicles and towing.
I move that ordinance
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one.
The parking, time and loan parking.
Yep, it is for time limit parking, yes.
I move ordinance 1326 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1326 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Ordinance 1326 reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood, Crest, amending and supplementing Section 79-35, Schedule 4, time limit parking spaces of Chapter 79, vehicles and traffic of the Code of the Borough of Wildwood, Crest.
I move that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1326.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1326.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
I move that a public hearing on ordinance 1326 be open.
We just did that, yes.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Anybody want to talk about that?
Those on the call, we have ordinance number 1326. The floor is open for any comments.
Okay, hearing no comments, I motion that the public hearing on ordinance number 1326 now be closed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1326 now be closed.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1326 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1326 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes. Those of you on the call, we just closed out all of the ordinances. Do you have any more questions before we close out the ordinances altogether? Hearing none, we'll move on to resolutions and budget adoption.
Yes, and so I need to read resolution number 2020-82 in full, which authorized the approval of the introduced calendar year 2020 municipal budget.
I move the foregoing resolution.
Oh wait, I have to read it in full.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Borough of Wildwood Crest in the County of Cape May, New Jersey, that the following statements of revenue and appropriations shall constitute the local budget for the year 2020. Be it further resolved that said budget be published in the Cape May County Herald issue of February 26, 2020. Be it further resolved that notice is hereby given that the budget and tax resolution were approved by the Board of Commissioners of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, County of Cape May, New Jersey, on February 19, 2020. Be it further resolved that a hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held on Wednesday, March 25, 2020, at 5:30 p.m. in the Municipal Courtroom, Borough Hall, 6101 Pacific Avenue, Wildwood Crest, New Jersey, at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2020 may be presented by taxpayers and others interested persons. With that, we move on to the first resolution, which is authorizing self-examination by the Borough of the 2020 municipal budget pursuant to the provisions of NJAC 5:30-7.2 through 7.5.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Next is authorizing the 2020 municipal budget be read by title and that a public hearing be held on the 2020 municipal budget.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes. Okay, the floor is open for any comments relative to the 2020 budget.
Mike Garcia, your presentation.
Okay, Mike Garcia, are you on the line?
I am on the line, Mayor. I have some brief comments that I'll give you on the background of the budget, and then obviously if there's any questions from the public or from the commissioners, I'll do my best to answer them. The budget that was introduced previously and that we're having a hearing on tonight contains a slight increase in the local purpose tax. That increase is 0.2 cents. That equates to $2 a year on the $100,000 of assessments. The average assessment in the Crest is $385,000, so it comes out to about $7.70 for the average assessment. As everyone is aware, the borough is subject to two state-imposed caps. The first one is the 3.5% spending cap. This budget is $889,000 below the 3.5% spending cap. We are also required to comply with the 2% tax levy cap. This budget is $1,471,818 below that 2% tax levy cap. Going through the line items, you will see that the total spending in this budget, net of grants and capital, net of grants, capital, and debt service, the increase is about $700,000. And that $700,000, you can really key in on four areas that make up the increases. First, salaries and wages constitute about $245,000 of the $700,000. The pensions, being the public employees retirement system and the police and firemen's retirement system, are up about $44,000. The sewer appropriation is up $300,000, and just as a reminder, there is that $300,000 increase in the sewer appropriation is offset by a revenue of user fees in the budget for $300,000 also. Then finally, all of the other expenses
record, that's Mike Garcia from Fort Scott County, the borough's municipal accountant. If anybody on the call has any questions for our CPA, our CFO, or the governing body, please give your name and address for the record. Anybody have any comments relative to the 2020 Wildwood Crest municipal budget?
This is, again, Susan Party. I have a question. Has there been any thought put into what losses may occur related to the COVID virus? So, for example, the mercantile licenses or the property taxes and things like that. Do you need to put any money in reserve? Or maybe, tighten the budget a little bit?
That's a very good question. What's happening in the world and the country today is upon us quickly. But the borough does have a very strong fund balance position. Our total fund balance exceeded $10 million at the end of the year. And we're using 3.1 of it to balance this budget. That leaves in reserve $7 million. So we feel that even with the uncertainty of the economy in general and how that may affect the borough, we feel that we're in as strong a position as we could hope for to be facing, this emergency situation. The budget itself is fiscally responsible and tight in most areas, but I feel that the reserve funds that we have on hand are sufficient to weather what is hopefully a temporary delay in the economy. Once again, I think we're in as strong a position as we could hope for.
Thank you. One further follow-up question, which is, how are those reserves invested, right? So just for example, my 401k as of today is pretty much gone, right? So where is all the investment? How are they invested in, like, what type of funds and what type of, securities do you have on them?
The good news is that New Jersey municipalities are not allowed to invest in equity-type items that are directly affected by the stock market. Is Francine in the room?
Yes, I'm here, Mike.
Yes, she is.
Come forward,
Because
Francine.
generally, and she can speak to this better than I can on the detail, but basically, the borough invests its accounts in interest-bearing, interest-paying accounts where there is no risk of loss to the principal amounts. And Francine might be better to give you a more detailed of exactly where she's investing and how she's investing funds currently. But the statutes related to municipal investments bar municipalities from investing in things that can lose principal value. So you're not going to ever have huge gains, but you're going to get your interest and you're not going to lose principal. And I think I'm watching on YouTube too. Is Francine?
Yes, I am. I'm right here I'm over on the side so that I can actually speak into the microphone. But yes, the borough does invest in, we have local banks as well as, I think the money is divested in 5 different bank accounts. So I do have it spread out so that we are protected and we are getting different interest rates on some of the funds so that we can get the best benefit to the taxpayers.
Susan, can you hear that?
We lost you.
Susan, can you hear?
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Francine, you might have to just say that a little louder.
Yeah, no problem.
Come on up,
Come up.
Francine.
Sure, no
It's-
problem.
it's your-
No problem. Well, they can hear me from the back, so that's why I was standing back there. Good afternoon, I'm sorry. I just wanted to reiterate what I had said before was that the borough does invest in we do have our funds in various bank accounts, about 4 to 5 bank accounts, so the funds are divested in different areas and we do receive different interest rates on those funds and I do watch that all the time. So they are not invested in any stocks or market, any volatile funds. As Mike had stated, we are not allowed to do that.
Thank you, Susan.
Anybody else? Questions on the 2020 municipal budget? The floor is still open. No,
And I'm especially interested in the one that was $400,000.
So to answer your question, that is in this particular budget, 2020 budget. And the plans that, we have were going to be unveiled at the March 28th meeting, but that's been canceled, so we can certainly get the revised New Jersey Avenue plans up on the website as soon as we get them from our municipal planner.
So is that something that will be distributed out?
Yeah, well,
On your website or something,
it'll-
the plan? Because I don't remember seeing like the parking lot or that particular piece of property on there.
Yeah, it'll be-
Those early plans.
Yes, it'll be available on the website probably within the next week or so.
Okay, thank you.
Susan, can we please have your address?
Susan,
Yeah,
for the record, could you provide your address?
sure. 125 West Rosemary Road.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, last call for any more 2020 budget comments.
Hearing nothing else from the public, I move that the public hearing on the calendar year 2020 municipal budget now be closed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the public hearing on the calendar year 2020 municipal budget now be closed. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next we have is authorizing the adoption of the calendar year 2020 municipal budget, inclusive of $15,752,044.84 for municipal purposes be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing certain appropriations transfers.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing an agreement with the Greater Wildwoods Tourism Improvement Development Authority for 2020.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing Borough Engineer work order for Pacific Avenue and various streets capital improvements program at the not-to-exceed sum of $315,000.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
We are striking the next resolution. Next is authorizing release of escrow funds in the amount of $337.50 for street opening application SO 18-1104.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing release of escrow funds in the amount of $177.50 for street opening application SO 19-0101.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing refund of 6 borough-wide yard sale permits for 2020.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing application refund of special event fee for the Mud Hen Race to Delmo Sports LLC.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing application refund of special event fee for Kite Buggy Bash to North American Power Kite Association.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing an extension deadline of mercantile license fees to June 1st, 2020, and late assessment fee to July 1st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing an extension deadline of sewer rents to May 1st, 2020, with a 10-day grace period.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Lastly is authorizing an increase of professional services contract amount in the amount of $5,000 for professional services for Scott Taylor of Taylor Design Group for Sunrise Park design.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
I move that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
I move that all reports received from the court administrator, the chief financial officer, the tax collector, the chief of police, supervisor for recreation department, emergency services coordinator for the EMS, and the Wildwood Crest Volunteer Fire Company chief for the month ending February 29, 2020 be accepted as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that all reports received from the court administrator, chief financial officer, tax collector, I'll make an error and say, I didn't have chief of police now, we'll make it captain of police, supervisor for the recreation department, emergency services coordinator for the EMS, and the Wildwood Crest Volunteer Fire Company chief for the month ending February 29th, 2020 be accepted as presented. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes, but we take a pause for a second. Is our people still on the call?
Mike, are you still on the line?
I think Mike might have left the line.
I think they all left.
Is there anybody else on the call? I'm getting a note that says, that the call dropped.
Don't look at me, I'm up here.
I'm just looking behind you, there's a number.
I think Mike got off.
Someone did just comment, look, just lost audio on phones.
Okay, we'll have to go back.
Welcome to Ring Central Office at Hand from AT&T Conferencing. Please enter your pass.
We'll have to go back to number 7 and number 8.
Access code accepted. There are 8 other participants in this conference. Please announce yourself.
Correct. I just sent them a comment.
We are back online, or back on. Can everybody hear us?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry,
Now,
we're experiencing some technical difficulties, but I think we're good to go.
can you tell us where we dropped off, Mike?
I think we're at
We're
number
Dennis?
7 on the bills.
For bills?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Do we need to do it again?
Yeah, right, let's do it again.
The call is actually way ahead of the video.
Okay. All right, so we're going to do the bill list again?
The call's most likely, the call is live, obviously.
Right.
There's a little bit, there's about a 10 or 15 second delay on the video.
It's kind of like these
Yeah.
old kung fu movies.
Right.
All right, so where am I going?
Let's do the bill list again.
Let's do the bill list again.
Yes, number 7.
I move that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Okay, number 8, reports. I move that all reports received from the court administrator, the chief financial officer, the tax collector, the captain of police, the supervisor for recreation department, emergency services coordinator for the EMS, and the Wildwood Crest Fire Company chief for the month ending February 29, 2020 be accepted as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that all reports received from the court administrator, chief financial officer, tax collector, captain of police, supervisor for the recreation department, emergency services coordinator for the EMS, and the Wildwood Crest Volunteer Fire Company chief for the month ending February 29th, 2020 be accepted as presented. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
I'm going into the minutes now. I move that all minutes from the regularly scheduled commission meetings dated February 19th, 2020 and March 11th, 2020 be approved as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that all minutes from the regularly scheduled commission meetings dated February 19th, 2020 and March 11th, 2020 be approved as presented. Roll call, Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Okay, we're going to rearrange the phone and have it face towards Constance. All moves us to our administrator's report.
Okay, so for March 25th, 2020, the Kayak Launch Sunset Lake Shoreline Stabilization Project. As previously reported, the project has not yet been closed out as we currently await completion of the punch list items, including the replacement of stamped concrete in certain areas and sealing of concrete in other areas. Our Public Works Department is expecting shop drawings from South State, our contractor, so that they can order new lights and replace the defective ones which are currently in place around the circles in the park. The installation of traffic calming and other safety measures along the Sunset Lake area of New Jersey Avenue is also forthcoming and will be paid for by the contractor as part of the liquidated damages claim for this project. The Beach and Dune Project. Our engineer has provided the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection Coastal Engineering with our request for a LERD credit from the Army Corps of Engineers. We are currently awaiting word back from them and will provide any information that we have as soon as we receive it on the success of our request for that LERD credit. The Rio Grande Avenue Gateway Improvement Project, as you all know, construction is ongoing and traffic detours are expected to continue throughout this spring. The Cape May County Open Space and Recreation applications from 2018, we did receive word this week that the Open Spaces Board granted us an extension of their shared service agreement for this project in the amount of $625 to extend this grant award until July 31st, 2020. It is likely that we will have to request another extension from the board as we move forward due to the current coronavirus issues and our issues with DEP land use in getting a permit for the playground and other amenities in this park. Pacific Avenue, Rambler to Jefferson, the sanitary sewer improvement piece of this project has been awarded and work has commenced on Farragut. Our engineer will elaborate more in his report. The New Jersey Avenue, Rambler to Crest. Conceptual artistic renderings for this project are available and posted on our website. We held our first stakeholder meeting in December at the Firehouse, and our second stakeholder meeting that was previously scheduled for Saturday, March 28th at 11 a.m. has been postponed until tentatively May 16th. Input taken from this meeting will be considered and used to make changes and updates to the plan that currently exists. We hope that we will be able to have this meeting at that time and ask that everyone be patient as we see how this turns out in the next few weeks. Center's designation. Our pre-petition meeting was scheduled for March 24th at 10 a.m. via telephone conference. The mayor and I participated in that, and I'm happy to report we did well and moved through that phase and step of our plan endorsement process for the borough. Signage for the beach. We are currently accepting bids for this project. We did receive one today. The old library, there's nothing new to report. Scoop Taylor Park. We've been awarded $400,000 from small cities for the fiscal year 2020 to make this park ADA compliant. The budget for this project is approximately $678,000 and includes the replacement of playground equipment and a new compliant ADA surface, the replacement of existing ramps and walkways, picnic tables, and a new gazebo. Conceptual plans for this project are forthcoming. Our CAFRA IP permit has been submitted in October. We have made subsequent changes to it, to land use, and we currently await word from them on the IP permit and our success. Wildwood water rate increase. This is important. The Wildwood Water Department has announced an increase in the 2020 water rates. The tariff increase will be effective April 14th, 2020. The ordinance was adopted on March 18th and is currently in its estoppel period. This increase will not be in effect for the upcoming first quarter water billing, but will be in effect for the second quarter billing in July for all Wildwood Water customers. The increase is due mostly to the reduction in water consumption, which is down 11% since 2016, and the increase that they have in electric costs. For a household using 20,000 gallons quarterly or 80,000 gallons annually, this will equate to an increase of approximately $30.42. I do have a copy of the rate schedules here, and Wildwood, of course, can provide them to any of their rate payers. Lastly, COVID-19 closings and cancellations. All borough buildings are currently closed to the public. However, many employees remain here at work or are working from home as approved by the governing body. All recreation events and venues are closed. The beaches have not been officially closed. However, all playgrounds have been posted in accordance with GIF guidelines at the state's directive. We cannot meet the sanitation that the state expects us to do on these playgrounds. So in order to keep everyone safe, we ask that everyone stay off of the playgrounds. All closures and cancellations, as well as other pertinent information, is being posted on our website and is being updated regularly. Department heads continue to be advised of all updates from the state, county, and federal. Notices and guidance are provided almost every day, and we ask that they be shared with all staff. I, along with the governing body, will continue to participate in all conference calls with all agencies going forward as we have been. I encourage everyone to visit the CDC website and the Cape County Department's new COVID-19 website as often as possible. I want to thank our dedicated staff during this difficult time and wish you all well.
Thank you. Governing body, any questions for administrator?
No.
Public? Those of you on the call, any questions for our administrator?
Thank you.
Hearing none, we'll move on to the engineer's report. Mark de Blasio. Come on up, Mr. de Blasio.
Okay.
Come on down.
Makeup,
Yeah.
hairdresser, anything. You can't have your back to the camera. The face like that, the public
Yeah,
is
that
going to want to
raises
see.
better side.
Okay.
Do not
This is
trip.
my filter.
Do not trip.
Do I, is it right for this thing?
Right here in front of the camera. We're good. Look how handsome he is.
He is. This
So
is it,
lucky.
Mark. This is your one chance.
So I have three brief items to go over with you guys. The first one is the 2019 roadway improvement program is essentially completed with the exception of final surface course paving. Bearing any unforeseen problems or any restrictions, the contractor will have this project completed by May 1st, so there's good progress on that project and it turned out real well. Second item, the Pacific Avenue and Berry Street Improvement Project has started construction actually last week on Farragut Road. We had a conversation about taking advantage of the temporary shutdown of the school to redirect the contractor to work on St. Louis Avenue. I'll be working with the contractor to get a revised schedule with him. I'll send that over to Connie for formal approval by the commissioners, and we will redirect him to start that work there. Lastly, Connie touched on this, based on an email from the DEP, the borough's NJDEP CAFRA permit for the beach programming phase 1 should be issued shortly. I was told that that permit was going to be sent to the supervisor's desk for signature, and we're hopeful that we get that permit shortly. That is my report.
That's your report. Governing body, any questions for Mark de Blasio?
Not at this time.
Mr. Engineer, could you please give us a copy of that also that you read, because you're just all over on this, and we're not sure what's first, second, or third, and I look it down and say, I don't know where he is, and he said, I say the same thing, so for next time, like
Okay.
this plus that,
So
okay?
what this is my handwritten notes that summarize the things that are just pertinent to the report, but I can provide that.
That would be good, thank you.
So you have a cheat sheet, you have cliff notes of the engineering report.
Yeah, I don't want to.
But he's not doing the kung fu, so don't worry
I don't
about it.
want to bludgeon you with reading the whole report, I just pick the topics.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anyone on the call have questions for Mr. de Blasio? Hearing none, we'll go to public comments. Any public comments for anything that we've discussed or anything you want to bring up? There'll be another round shortly. There's nothing listed under new business. Nothing pressing under old business. We're going to go right back to public comments before we move to the public hearing on the ROSSI amendment. Public comments. Any public comments? Hearing none, I'm going to ask Marcus Caravan to come up and make a presentation and overview
Where would you like me to be seated, Mayor?
Wherever they can see your handsome face.
Okay, we just confirm that so people will not drop.
It is.
This is a sound check to the conference call, and everybody's still on the line.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the phone around, so you can hear Marcus Pear. I'm gonna talk about the ROSSI amendment. Check one, check one, check 1, 2, 3. You got it? Everybody on the call? All right, Marcus Caravan.
Good evening, mayors and commissioners. I am here tonight to talk about an amendment to the ROSSI, which is an acronym for the Recreational and Open Space Inventory of Green Acres. And the parcel in question is located near Sunset Lake, and actually on Sunset Lake. It's block 79, lot 1.01. Do the mayor and commissioners have the outline?
I do.
Okay, because it'll be easier to follow. This is approximately a 60-year history, so I want to walk you through it step by step so it's clear as to how this parcel was acquired, and you will see definitively when we're done that this parcel was not acquired by Green Acres funding. So there was never any consideration paid by Green Acres relative to the acquisition of the parcel. And if you look at Exhibit F in your schedule, you'll see that on or about December 30th of 1963, the trustee for the city of Philadelphia deeded this property to the Borough of Wildwood, Crest for a purchase price of $16,000. Now this parcel, it's a long, thin parcel that stretches along the edge of Sunset Lake, and it also stretches beyond that into a landward portion of the crest. You can see this on Exhibits A and B, if you turn to them. Actually, the second exhibit in A is better. That shows you the portion of the Lot 1.01 that abuts Sunset Lake. Exhibit B shows you the portion that abuts the former area known as Mariners Inn. The entire parcel is approximately 2.7 acres. There was an error made in the first deed, and on April 2nd, 1964, a corrective deed was filed. And that deed also transferred Block 79, Lot 1.02 to Wildwood Crest. Lot 1.02 abuts Sunset Lake, Lot 1.01 actually does not. This deed is attached as Exhibit H, and it recites the identical consideration of $16,000. So no additional money was paid for the filing of this deed, it just included an additional parcel. Now, this is the parcel. If you take a look at Exhibit I, the agreement and restrictions with what ultimately became Green Acres, that is listed as the parcel acquired by Green Acres. And if you review Exhibit I and compare it to the deed, the correctional deed filed, listed as Exhibit C, you'll see that the description of the two parcels are identical. Only 1.02 was acquired. There is no reference to 1.01 in the agreement and restrictions. So there was never any funding to acquire 1.01. This is further buttressed, and Steve, may I have that large map? Exhibit J, which is a rather old document, and you only have it in pieces, but I can circulate it to the commissioners to look at, was actually printed in 1958, and it clearly references Lot 1.02, and it clearly indicates to be acquired by Green Acres funding. It also references Lot 1.01, and it makes no reference to Green Acres funding or acquisition. So this is further evidence of the fact that 1.02 was the lot that was acquired, not 1.01. The actual size of 1.01 is approximately 2.7 acres. That will become significant a little later when we look at how this parcel made it onto the ROSSI. On or about November 29th, 1983, the Borough of Wildwood Crest issued an easement across the southerly portion of 79 1.01 to Mariner Inn, Inc. That easement was utilized for approximately 36 years. It was utilized heavily, openly, and notoriously, and continuously as a parking lot access for a commercial restaurant and tavern. So it would be inconsistent for the borough to issue a legally binding easement to another entity if the intent was to put it on the open space inventory. If you take a look at A and B, you can see the aerial photographs, and particularly B is approximately 0.4 acres. So, skipping ahead, at one point in time, in or about in or about 2002, Kevin Yecko, who was then the borough clerk, was communicating with representatives from Green Acres regarding the declaration of encumbrance, known as the ROSSI. And I've attached as Exhibit E a correspondence between Bruce Beckclough of Green Acres and Kevin. And there's an inventory list attached. Now this appears to be the heart of the problem, because Block 79, Lot 1.01 is listed in inventory, although there was no consideration for the acquisition, but the entirety of the lot is not issued. The actual size of the parcel is 2.7 acres, only 1.462 acres was listed. So I don't know whether there was a misdesignation on the plan or a understanding between Green Acres and the borough at that point in time that that part would be listed, but clearly there was not an intent to list the portion of the property that the borough had already legally committed to provide an easement upon. So on or about June 5th, 2019, the borough entered into a new easement agreement with the owner of the Lower Township parcel that abuts this. Previously it was Mariners Inn, Inc. Now there's a new owner, and the intent with the new easement was to greatly reduce the intensity of the use. The previous use was very intense. It allowed tremendous amount of traffic to be traversing the property. It serviced a commercial inn and tavern. What's contemplated now is 2 driveways for 4 houses. So your traffic will probably be limited to 8 cars, 10 cars, as opposed to 400 to 500 cars that previously traversed the property. So it's a substantial benefit for the borough by way of traffic, by way of congestion, by way of waste, by way of usage and intensity, because it greatly decreases the intensity of the scope of use of the easement. Subsequently, Green Acres raised this issue indicating that this parcel was listed, and we discovered that a portion of the parcel was indeed listed, but we believe there was a lack of clarity relative to that, and the intent was not to list the entire parcel, as evidenced by the fact that the ROSSI only indicates 1.4 acres. So that, Mayor, is the summation of the history of the parcel.
Okay, governing body, any questions for Mr. Caravan?
No, seems straightforward to me.
Public that's on the call, do you have any questions regarding the ROSSI amendment to Mr. Caravan?
Hi, my name is Helen Kiter. I have some questions. So I'm trying to follow the conversation, but it's difficult without the documents, without the exhibits that are being talked about. I did look on the website, but I couldn't find them. Are the exhibits there, or is it possible for the public to have access?
They're on the header of the website.
I am told that they are on the header of the website, ma'am.
In the alert box.
In the alert box.
Front page alert box
Front page alert box.
at the top.
At the very top, ma'am.
Not just the announcement, the exhibits are there?
The exhibits there, and
I couldn't find them, because I know that I saw something that talked about this, and it discussed a number of exhibits, but I couldn't find the exhibit.
It says, it's the last link. It says Wildwood Crest requests amendment to recreation open space inventory through NJDEP Green Acres program. There's a series of links right under that. One is click here for statement, click here for meeting notice, click here for timeline, click here for map. The last one for map is where you're going to get the exhibits.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll go back and I'll look for those, thank you.
The chronology's up there as well.
I did see something about the chronology. And then I have another question. We talked about the state, providing 16,000, I think it was, in 1963 for the purchase of the Green Acres land.
No, ma'am, the borough acquired the property for $16,000 from Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia. Green Acres then paid $8,000 to encumber 1.02. So the parcel in question is 1.01, which was not acquired by Green Acres and is not listed in the agreement with the encumbrances.
Okay.
For anyone that's having a hard time finding the exhibits on the homepage, if you're looking from a computer, it probably shows up. If you're looking from a mobile device or an iPad or what have you, you may have to click a down arrow at the top. I just did it from my iPhone, and that's what I saw. So just, if you're looking from an iPhone or a mobile device, it's going to be, you have to hit a down arrow.
And the document that is helpful in confirming that is unfortunately an old black and white survey from 1958. You will see it says Survey of West Jersey and Seashore Railroad. That document clearly indicates that the intent to purchase for Green Acres was lot 1.02, not 1.01. You may have a hard time reading that. Unfortunately, it had to be photographed in pieces. It's pretty old.
This is Susan. Question.
Go ahead, please.
Susan, can you say your name and address, please?
Sure, Susan Rozak, 125 West Rosemary Road. My question is, this appears to be a complicated topic. In the end, can you give us like a one or two, sentences of what are we trying to do here? Because I'm sort of picturing that maybe there's this Green Acre space that...
So Green Acre, I can summarize it like this.
And parking lot, but is it now you're trying to, use this for these parking lots for these new buildings that are going up? Is that, what is the summary action here?
So the summary action is this: Green Acres never paid for this parcel. It should not have been listed on the ROSSI, and it was. So we're trying to correct the error and remove it. The easement issue is a separate issue. There was an easement issued over this parcel years ago. It's still legal and binding. The borough has entered into a new agreement which greatly reduces the scope of the easement, which is a good thing for the borough, but we need to get over this hurdle with Green Acres of the erroneous placement of this parcel on the ROSSI.
Well, is it to our advantage to keep it as a Green Acre site? Doesn't that mean more green space for us?
No, it's really not to our advantage to keep this portion, because this portion has never been used as a Green Acre site. It's always been used as an access easement area.
But going forward, would it then prevent,
It's going to be utilized.
driveways or, this housing that's going up?
There's going to be 2 driveways put in, which will be a much less intense use than the use that was there up till this point in time. There was a drive for a commercial bar and tavern, which had a lot of traffic, as you can imagine. And now there's going to be 4 houses with 2 driveways total. So the use will be
And
much.
is there going to be are we receiving some type of a financial benefit from this?
The benefit we're receiving is that it's a much less intense use. We're already committed to the easement.
I see. Well, wait, but the borough, the easement was never really used, was it? Or not the city?
Yes, it was
We're
used
talking
for
about the easement.
36
There was only
years.
one-
It was used
There's
for,
only one entrance.
it was used for 36 years to service the Mariner Inn.
Well, how big is the easement that was used for 36 years to service the Mariner Inn?
That drawing I do not have in front of me, ma'am. But it serviced the entire parking area for the bar and restaurant.
Well, I've lived across the street from it for 3 years, and there's not been a ton of traffic. It was
Well-
not really a very popular restaurant.
Not recently, but in its day, there was a lot of traffic. That doesn't change the legality of the easement.
Yeah, I'm just curious how big the easement was, because I only see one entrance to a driveway.
Okay, anybody else? Questions on the ROSSI amendment? Those of you who are on the call. One last time, any further questions on the ROSSI amendment?
So I have a question. Why
I need your name,
Why
sir.
do the,
It's Dennis.
sure, it's Joe Vinda.
Joe, what was your last name?
800, sorry?
Your last name?
Pinto, P-I-N-T-O,
And what was your address, Joe?
8005 Bayview.
Thank you.
Sure. So why do this now? Well, why is it necessary for the township to take action at this point when, like you said, the easement was there, it's legally binding? Are we trying to prevent the old easement from being exercised in this new easement?
We're trying to limit the scope of the easement. The old easement was substantially greater in scope. It was somewhat loose, and this will be a very defined easement limited to 2 driveways. So that's,
And it'll have traffic limitations
it'll,
put in place?
when you say traffic limitations, I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, you said the old easement would have a high traffic volume.
Well, I had a high traffic volume
High
by
traffic volume.
virtue of the fact that it was a commercial bar and restaurant, whereas this will only be 4 houses. So I would not imagine, under most circumstances, that 4 houses would generate the volume of traffic that a commercial bar and restaurant would.
So there's no way that property could be used for anything but those 4 houses for this easement?
It's going to be limited to that, and they're going to give up the rights under the prior easement, and it will be governed by this new, more limited easement, which is more confined in scope.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
Any other
else?
questions?
I guess my last,
Flooring available, I'm sorry, Susan Rozak, Ocean Park, West Rosemary Road. Do you have these drawings available? Is that what, the last person spoke about, she was looking for? Like, we'll be able to see the side by side?
So there was a previous hearing relative to that. Those drawings are available, and my understanding is they will be going for a CAFRA permit, and you will have an opportunity to be heard relative to that issue as well. But the scope of tonight's hearing is just the removal of this matter from the ROSSI. So the short answer is yes, those drawings are available, and I'm sure that if you contact the clerk, she could provide them to you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing no further comments, we're going to close the portion on the ROSSI amendment.
Okay, I have it at 6:40.
And before we hang up from the YouTube streaming, Facebook Live, and the conference call, I want to give one more last round for any questions or comments
John,
before we.
we do have a few that have come in
Okay.
through Facebook.
Okay.
One is from a Lenny Syfor, it's Syfor, and hang on one second, let me get his address for you. His address is 187 Island, Eyland Avenue. And I don't know the name of this town, I don't recognize it. Succasunna, Succasunna, New Jersey. But his question to the governing body is, what is going on with visitors and visiting with respect to coronavirus? He has a trip planned to the area in June and September.
Mayor, before we address that, may I just ask the governing body if you have any questions with regard to my summation of this?
No, sir.
No more questions. We close out the portion of the ROSSI amendment.
Okay.
Yours.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
So that was the first question.
So I can repeat the question. The question is, are there any restrictions to visitors to the island or in June? June?
He has trips planned for June and September, wants to know if there will be any restrictions on visitors and visiting.
At this current time, there are none. That's not to say that depending on the spread and how fast it's moving through New Jersey and into Cape May County, that could change, but as of right now, based on the conversations with the governor's office and Cape May County, there is no restrictions in place at the moment.
Okay, hang tight please, there's a couple more. Pam Costa, 212 East Heather Road. She'd like to know if there's any update on the fishing pier project.
At the moment, there is no update other than the Fishing Pier Committee is planning to meet again to discuss and further review the costs to get the numbers firmed up, if you will. And then in addition to that, to find and have other authorities and organizations lock into what they're willing to contribute to the project before we can understand what the borough's portion is. There's also permitting issues as well, which we're working through.
Okay, and one more from a Steve Vicario, Vicario, 7703 New Jersey Avenue. And his question is, are there any plans to have the electric lines on New Jersey Avenue placed underground?
So that was discussed previously as a result of the costs and some of the poles that belong to Atlantic City Electric. They've indicated that some of the poles can be relocated, but the ones that are I'll call them the largest and probably most obtrusive are the ones that they need to keep the lines in place. However, that said, we did ask our engineer to review that and waiting for a report, but at this particular point in time, it's a low priority item.
That's it for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any more comments? Anyone on the call have any comments? Anybody on YouTube have any comments? Anyone around Facebook? Any more comments? Hearing none, we have Mr. Thompson.
Captain, would you like to commend and issue a statement regarding the COVID-19 or any other issues you might have? Come around. I didn't want to put you on the spot, but if you had, I'm sorry, wanted to make any comments regarding the current situation.
Okay.
Makeup?
As far as our current situation, we did put out that we are changing the way we respond to calls, and that was put out about a week ago now. Certain calls are being handled via telephone rather than an officer responding and having face-to-face contact with an individual. As far as rescue calls go, we're working with rescue to ensure that our officers are not having unneeded contact with whoever is needing medical assistance. I am every morning being updated through the state about the current situation. We're working on scheduling possibilities to limit our officers' exposure to the virus, and I'm working with the commissioner on that right now. As of right now, that's all I have at this time.
Okay.
We're asking those that need help, whether it be police or fire or EMS, the dispatch will ask the nature of your need, and at that time we'll be asking if anybody feels symptoms that would represent the virus, so that our EMS police responding can take appropriate cautions. So we would ask that if you have somebody in a household that has symptoms, that you would tell that to dispatch. They will relay that information on. In the event that a police officer responds, if you're not needing immediate help from that officer, he will be remaining outside until EMS gets there. They will handle the situation. If it's an immediate situation and help is needed, police officer, EMS, they're going to handle it. They will come in your house and do everything necessary. We do ask, if that's not the case, that the officer may ask you to meet him outside so he can keep the distance and find out the nature of your need. That being said, we just ask you to cooperate. We're trying to keep you safe as well as our police officers and EMS. As you know, a lot of the healthcare people are getting the virus and going down, and we need to minimize that. So we thank you in advance, ask you for your support in helping us with that.
So I'm going to add that county dispatch will, when you call them, they will ask you certain questions regarding your symptoms, and if you've traveled outside the country in a certain period of time. So these questions will be asked of you. Just bear with them, answer the questions so that we can properly inform the responding emergency service personnel about what situation they're going into. It's going to be vital to the response. But like the commissioner said, if there is an emergency situation that needs to be immediately handled, the police that are responding will not stand outside and let something happen. They will go inside and do what they have to do and perform any immediate care that is needed. The over the phone reporting and everything, that's for minor incidents. If there's a crime going on and you call the police, we're not going to talk to you on the phone and take that over the phone. We will respond to that. So please don't think that our response to crimes or emergency situations is going to be lacking. We're going to do everything we can to avoid unnecessary contact with the public, but when immediate action needs to be taken, we will take that action.
Okay. All right, so before we close, I want to thank Francine Springer for her hard work on the budget, and all the commissioners and all the department heads for keeping things lean and mean for another year. That's number one. Number two, I want to wish everybody well. Stay safe, wash your hands, keep the social distancing. I know these are trying times, and I appreciate everybody working with us, and those of you who are watching live as well as on the call. I know it's not a perfect scenario and perfect world, but we're always available. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to the governing body or our clerk or our administrator and whoever you need to speak to. I'm sure they'll be happy to help. I know some of our staff are working from home, but they've been very responsive getting back to our public, which on behalf of the governing body, we're all very appreciative. That said,
I have one more.
yes, sir.
So I was approached by the Hotel Motel Association. Their question was whether or not we had any plans to delay their opening of the motels. So I wanted to give you a chance to weigh in on that. My response was I did not believe that will be coming from us. That probably come from the governor's office if this situation gets more serious, and we would wait to see what happens. I don't anticipate it. The majority of them do not rent until the middle of May. I said we would need a couple more weeks to see where this went anyway, what the governor or the state or the president does. So I did want to offer that up if you had comments on that to the Motel Association, and I will relay whatever else we have.
Yes. that individual also spoke to me, and I indicated the same, that would probably be state-driven. I am on the call with the county and the rest of the mayors at least once, sometimes twice a week, and with the governor's office at least once a week. So haven't heard anything on that. I think everyone's, going into the summer with the best optimism. Hopefully everything, passes and we can start focusing on the summer, but right now everything is on hold. Cool.
Hearing nothing further?
We have one more, we have another comment?
We have one more, it just came from, I don't have an address, but it came from the VIP Family Motel. I don't know if we can I legally ask that question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. It says, are residents permitted to walk their dogs after 8 p.m. if needed? I'm sorry, and the name on it is Alethea Pulaski.
A resident's allowed to walk?
Permitted to walk their dogs if needed after 8 p.m.
As far as I know, the answer is yes. There's nothing prohibiting anyone from going outside at 8 o'clock. Okay.
On that same note, Ocean City today closed their beach and boardwalk. We, as yet, have not closed our beach, correct?
So on the conference call with the mayors today, it was agreed that before anyone takes that type of action, that those of us who have boardwalks and beaches would talk about it first, because what would happen is we think if you close one, they're going to go to another one. So at the moment, that would be the only beach, the only boardwalk in Cape May County that is closed down, as well as their beach. So right now, all this island's beaches and boardwalk is open.
I believe it should be open. I mean, people can still walk. We still ask you to practice the social distancing. If the weather turns, gets real hot, and we have an issue like they did in Florida with crowds, we may have to take it up then, but as of now, we don't have to make a move just yet.
And likewise, I think it hurts our local folks too from enjoying the beach and so forth. So I think it's news at 11. We're just going to have to keep taking it day by day and keep watching. But just for the record, for the moment, there's no reported cases on the island, and including Wildwood Crest. Nobody stays that way.
I just have one more comment. For the ROSSI hearing, comments are still welcome for 2 more weeks after today. So if you do have any, please make sure you send them. We will be happy to address them for up to 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
6:53. Thank you.
For the record, that was just a sneeze.
Thank you.
No,